I absolutely do not like AI slop. And one of them I call synthetic coherence, which is basically an article or a blog piece or a social media post that reads really, really well until you really think about it and you realize it might not make sense at all.
We're all starting to sound like AI, even in our spoken conversations, which can be honestly quite creepy and scary. Welcome to Influence Unlocked, a candid conversation series with B2B thought leaders who are building an industry voice that is honest, thought provoking, and impactful. Hello, I'm Arun, co founder of Influence, a B2B marketing consultancy. Content is everywhere, but how much of that really creates influence? Today, we are joined by Paul Mah, a storyteller who has mastered a rare skill, making complex technology stories sound unmistakably human and simple. Welcome, Paul.
Thank you for having me today. And you say the most nice things about me.
So, Paul, you have been writing content for over 20 years now. So, let's start with something fundamental. In B2B storytelling, what creates trust? Is it credibility, empathy, consistency, or something else?
I think when it comes to trust, it's not a single area, but we're looking at multiple areas as well. I mean, give you an example, right? You go to a restaurant. What determines a good restaurant from a not very good one? Is it the quality of the food? Is it the ambience, the decor? Is it the service? Is it how fast the food comes? I would argue that it will be all of the above. What would break the trust? I think is a matter of multiple factors that needs to be considered. We tend to look for a silver bullet, right? We need to look for a place. One thing that we can do to improve everything, I would say we need to meet a minimum standard for all of the above to build trust.
So, coming back to instant content generation, how does storytelling need to evolve when anyone can generate a story in seconds?
I think trust is trust is trust, right? It hasn't really changed. But I think when it comes to the current era that we are in, which is we see generative AI everywhere, right? So it gets a bit complicated because I think we are still trying to figure out how much you can trust AI, right? I mean, would you be okay with AI use in an EDM? Would you be okay with an AI use on the landing page on the website? We are still trying to figure it out, and I think the jury is out for that still. But at the end of the day, I think storytelling is really simple. If you look at a lot of the tech conferences out there, right, they have this massive keynote. Apple does it, Samsung does it, the big brands all do it. It's beautifully planned, music, sound, lights. Some of them even have performances. So that's really, in a way, storytelling. But it doesn't have to be a big budget item, right? It could be something small. So give an example, right? Last year, a few dozen analysts and journalists were invited to Japan by a tech company to look at how they build their laptops. So it wasn't a very grand event. They basically shared with us how they built the laptop, the considerations. They brought us to the R&D lab where they show us how they do the tests. We spoke to the engineers. We touched and felt the different laptop models. Some of them, they actually opened it up so that we could see the inside to see how they fit well together. And really, they're giving us the story about their laptops. Nothing too complicated. You know what? Of three of us who came from Singapore, two of us within the next 6 months purchased a laptop. And this was from their website through the normal sales.
And that makes a great point, and it actually validates that humans buy from humans, humans follow humans, so that human element is, it's something that, try as you much, you can't ignore. Does building influence through storytelling, does it require courage or consistency, or both?
I think you need both um, consistency, which is the quantity, as well as the quality. Much as you would hope that our audience read every single piece of our content or every single one of our story, the reality is they will only see a fraction of what we put out. Right? So no matter how much you advertise, they only see certain pieces of content, certain pieces of your story. What they see will set an impression on you.
Yeah.
Right? So and you need to have more quantity in a sense or consistency because as I say, if you only put out stories once or twice a month, chances of them seeing it at all will be very, very low.
Talking about consistency, how often do you write?
If you're talking about my content on social media, I when I started in 2023, I wrote every single day. Um, I've since evolved it a little bit. So these days, sometimes I skip a day a week, but I write all other days. I see writing as a skill, that gets better over time. But I think above and beyond that, especially in the age of AI, I think writing is also thinking. So writing allows you to think through the things that you read, to process through, and actually gives you a better understanding, of the topics that you're writing about.
So, Paul, you do say that storytelling is the lowest hanging fruit. If it's the lowest hanging fruit, there are still times that brands tend to miss it. And what's a simple shift that can change that perspective?
They have to take the patience and the time to do it. The challenge here is this, right? Many decision makers do not see the value of storytelling versus quick fixes. For example, spending more money on digital advertisement, spending more money to run a campaign. But storytelling takes a longer time in that sense. But I would argue that it changes minds, right? Not just for that one time. The issue is decision makers, right? They need to know that storytelling makes a difference. And in the context of AI today, I unfortunately many of them might not be able to see a difference between a well-written prose versus a AI generated, wall of text. So I guess unfortunately that's the thing that needs to change.
So we've gone from SEO to GEO, optimizing for generative engines. How does that change the way B2B brands should think about storytelling and writing?
Strangely, I don't think it changes the storytelling in any way at all, right? But I think the way we put out the stories will have to evolve with time. I'll give an example. Many years ago, when I first started writing, those are the days of the big media, right? So you can get a reporter to come to your office or write a story about your company, you are set. And now, as the newsroom started shrinking, the audience of the traditional media shrunk and many newsrooms closed, things evolve, right? And brands said, you know what, I need to do my own content in-house. So they set up blogs, they created lots of content, they hired people to do that, and it was great for a while. So now AI came along. Now, the issue with AI is this, right? It is easy for a user to ask questions, for the AI engine to go to your website, get all the data, and rewrite it for the user without them visiting your site at all. And in most cases, this context or even mention of your brand might be completely stripped out. So clearly, you can't do the same thing anymore. But yet, storytelling has never changed. You still need to tell your story. If you were to visualize a sailboat, right, instead of relying for a single sail, which might be traditional media, which might be your company's company blog, we need to use multiple sail to catch as much wind as possible. And these days, that would be things like social media platforms, maybe some of your own blog as well, and maybe your own newsletters, EDMs, and as many channels as possible because you do not know where your customers will see your content. But the idea is when they see one, hopefully the quality is enough to compel them to either check out other content from your channels or to remember, have a favorable impression of your brand. And when I say the different channels, it must be channel native, right? Because the old way of doing it is to write a blog, get the URL and paste it all over the different social media channels. I think that won't work anymore because the social media platforms has risen to that. You probably will not get much engagements and much views that way, right? So you need to get the same content, yes, but you will have to repurpose it such that it's native to whatever platform that you're on.
So, a bit of a fun question to end. What are your favorite words or phrases that instantly scream AI slop?
I use AI a lot in the work that I do. I use it to speed up my work, but I absolutely do not like AI slop, right? And there's two things that jumps out to me, and one of them I call syntactic coherence, which is basically an article or a blog piece or a social media post that reads really, really well, looks like it makes sense until you really think about it and you realize it might not make sense at all. And we're seeing a lot of that on social media because unfortunately AI has become a shortcut for them to quickly create social media posts. But anybody involved us who knows the topic, if they read it, they know that this is rubbish, right? Unfortunately, it often takes some time to completely read the piece, think about it before you realize it's synthetic coherence or which is AI slop. The other one will be certain prose techniques. Prose techniques are things like parallelism. We call it rule of three, antitheses. So there are certain ways of writing it. If not this, then that, which are actually good techniques for writing. issue with AI is that they take all of them and they go wild, right? They cram it all into 5, 6, 7 techniques in a short paragraph. But if you go wild with that, right, you realize that you're something that's quite distasteful, to be honest.
It was great hearing your insights, and thank you once again.
Thank you for having me.
And that's Influence Unlocked. If this episode resonated with you, share, drop in your comments because influence is built in conversation. See you at the next episode.